Hello and welcome. Today is Sunday, 5th day of November, 2017. Welcome. In this video, I'm going to go over Bitcoin as well that of Ethereum. And I went over Bitcoin on the 2.5 minute warning, talking about its poise for a huge move. And it really needs more time for what I want to go over. And Ethereum's got an interesting situation I want to talk about as well. All right, then. So everything you do is obviously in your own risk and your own reward. And being aware of your own risk and own reward, I think, is very, very important. Risk reward management job number one, I think, for an investor trader. With this Bitcoin cryptocurrency, one is in control, their own bank of their own money. And therefore, it's your own due diligence to do the best to give yourself your better financial situation. The trend line is already barely broke. Keyword barely broke. And this thing is, again, like I've been stating, poised to go higher. Now, this is a weekly chart, and 8,000 move is just not that much larger. And when I talk about breaks of trend lines, in a situation, if you come up towards it in here, oftentimes what you might get is the following week, you might get a red candle that brings it back. And it's probably going to find support at a good uptrend line. That's a support area. And the 18 average of lows would be one of them. It's very common that when you break, especially a higher ascending upwards line, that the move might be large, but the break can oftentimes pull back very quickly. So there's one thing to be aware of within this situation. We can see on the weekly chart that the 18 average of lows last touched was hit in here. It only took a couple weeks for it to exit it. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive periods above such. This was the 5th period back in here above it. This market is very high, and it is in need of a correction. It's supposed to top now. And the best guess how this market's been playing, as I've been talking about this, is you expect it to have a nice rise from here and a good break of resistance. So here's resistance. That's a good break. Comes back. That's a good break. So I would expect it to come back towards here. One thing I mention in technical analysis over and over again whenever the situation rises, if you don't find support where you're supposed to or resistance where you're supposed to, watch out, because you're usually going to go whatever the next leg higher is in a very fast lightning speed amount of time. So in this situation in here, where would you expect to have key resistance? And my answer has basically always been, well, since it's been breaking out, somewhere around the 6,000-ish area upwards to around in here. And we're up and around in there. I made a video about 8,000 just based on how much this gains on every break of its highs, that I would think 8,000 made sense on a break of this particular one. And the setup should state we're going to such later today or into tomorrow. So that's the first level of resistance. If it doesn't resist here, 10,000 to me is conservative. And 4 weeks is a conservative amount of time. Maybe more realistic might be 11,000 in 3 weeks. And even a realistic aggressive side might be around 12 or 13,000 in under 2 weeks. Of course, 12, 13,000, 3, 4 weeks makes sense as well if I'm going to say I could do the other in that duration of time. But because we're supposed to find it here, I don't expect to grind higher if we don't resist now. And we're going to start to see like, oh, $300 day, $200 day, $400 day, $80 up day. No, no, no. $2,000 up day, pause day, $3,000 up day, or $800 up day, and then it goes down. Something huge. And now let's look at this on the other time frames, because I got lots to go over. So next up, the daily chart. And what we see here is, well, let's follow the money. Follow the money. What we're looking at is when it makes the statement that it wants to revert a down or sideways move. The statement is made after it has stayed and held below the 18 average of highs for a significant period of time. So much is the case there. And the statement that the trend was over is when it has a decent break above the 18 average of highs, which was the case there. It stated, yeah, I'm ready to revert this trend. I want to break 2,000 and well, yeah, 2,000. That was high back then for a lot of people. It wanted to break it then. Beautiful correction, and it did, and it made this move. Here we see price action holding and staying below the 18 average of highs. It was holding and staying below the 18 average of lows for the most part in here. So the statement that it was ready to revert the trend came in here. A little bit of move to this point, boom, and a huge, huge rally to 56. Sideways correction. Now it never went below it, and it held it. Sellers obviously didn't show as much enthusiasm like they did here as they did here. There was very little such at this time. But the buyers sure found a lot of enthusiasm up in here. This is just unbelievable. Normally, if you were to say to me, Derek, price action in here, we have this resistance at 6,200, and we see this break. If you were to tell me after this day, it's going to be about 5 days and the price is about 7,600, would it be a good time to sell? And I would say yes and no. No, because I think 8,000 is available. Yes, because it's well above. But 8,000 seems more and more likely when I'm looking at this short-term situation. And we'll use a 60-minute time frame now. I want to first talk about this high. It's not a key level anymore. It was. But the key level now is here, because that's the big resistance. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll talk about this move here first. It had a very, very good price correction because it went from like 7,400 down to 6,700, albeit very sharp and very fast. And this volume hasn't even been contested to this degree since. Although, don't be surprised when this breaks out or tops later on that it will break it. But we'll figure that's later on. It had an okay satisfactory amount of correcting through time in here. It was a correction though. The bigger one was here. It broke this resistance and it held this key support at 71. It had a good duration of time, thus correcting through time within here, and one nice leg lower down here. Makes it a bit of a stronger situation, but as it comes back, here's the statement again, right here. Statement, yeah, I want to revert trend. Okay, good luck. You're doing good. Okay. So after the statement, makes this move up to previous high. And then it comes down the 18 average of lows near 73. It's been holding. And here's another statement right here. Yeah, statement. After correcting this move, I'm ready to like crush this thing like no other. Oh, okay. Have fun crushing this now because that's what it's telling me. The story of the market. And what I've learned within technical analyses is when you have a majorly awesome, huge setup in place and it doesn't formit, it doesn't come into play, watch out, that's a massive fail move opposite direction lower. So then, if this thing, I would be very surprised if it grinds its way higher, but it should either have some big explosive moves at least to around 8,000, But if this thing doesn't go and it stays in here, don't be surprised if we go well into the 6,000s. But I think it's more likely that this thing is going to have another leg higher up to that 8,000. And as I pointed on the outset or the start of this video, then all that long-term stuff will come into play and see if it resists where it's supposed to. Because we should be resisting long-term. But we can see here it is held and stayed above this key support for 3 or 4 periods. I'd like to see a couple more, and it could break now, obviously, too. But what I've written in the book that I've been writing over the last few days, oftentimes, especially when I compare it to the US dollar, I'm going to show you with Ethereum, that I'm looking for markets to hold and stay above key levels. Let me explain what it means when I say hold and stay above. When you have a market like we did in here, you have 2 key levels that were established, 7,100, which was this level of resistance, and the big move here towards about 74. So therefore, what I'd be saying in here is if I can see this hold and stay above 7,100 for a significant period of time, watch out. Check mark, it has held and stayed above 7,100 for more than a significant amount of time. More than enough, that is. 7,100. Now, I'm not going to say this is failed move, fast move by any means. Although, if it was, it's having a fast move right now to the upside. What I am saying is if you're looking at a key level that's important like 71, you don't have to do what you do here and always hit it, and it can't go lower. But when you see situations that it does go lower to that key point, but it doesn't stay there long and it recaptures back above that number, that's why I talk about holding and staying above. Because the word staying above means if it does go down here, well, technically that's good enough to say it's doing such. And these are the signs to point out that a big play like this is coming into fruition. We can see in here with this high and where it topped to on its statement that it wants to break out, that we're near 7,300. So therefore, it needs to hold and stay above 73. Congratulations, you've done it. Now we have this high here and here. Well, if it can get above it, now it has to hold and stay above it. Well, it's only been 3 periods, but it's doing so thus far. So this is why this is such a very bullish setup. In 13 minutes, I knew this was going to take some time. Let's go into Ethereum now. And Ethereum crossed in Bitcoin. It's not so good. And this is the daily chart. Now the screen looks a lot different because it started downpouring, so the internet is working fine with the exception of this site. So I'm not too happy about that because I tried to save an image of this. It's not doing anything. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to change the time frame or go to the dollar index. But this is a lot, and a lot of these other codes is nothing more than a formality for the most part that Bitcoin is just kicking ass. It's just doing so well that, oh, you've fallen from 1,600 handle to a 400 handle. Way to lose 3/4 of your value. Well, yeah, against Bitcoin, but everything's losing its value. Let's put a chart against anything in price against Bitcoin, whether it be your gas prices that you pay, any stock, including Amazon. And you see how well they're doing too. So the fact that a lot of these alternate coins have been able to sustain these bull markets is incredible, because if you think back, this thing rallied from here to here, and it's still well above this low. And this is against Bitcoin. And during this time it rallied, Bitcoin was in a bull market as well. So when these US dollar charts actually flip over, It would be an interesting situation. Let's see if I can even bring up the US dollar chart. If not, I'll give it some time and wait for the internet to come back on this site because it's working everywhere else. It just started downpouring though. Okay. So anyway, actually I can go back to where I was because I am writing information on so many different codes. You can expect it probably Monday, but it's like 11 pages and I'm just finishing the E's right now. 28.27 is where I think this thing is going to go down to. 28.27, which is right around here. And I've talked in here about holding and staying above key levels, what this thing means on the US dollar. Now this one, a lot of dollar charts against cryptos, a lot of them are sweet looking charts. This one isn't. It's a little difficult and tricky. However, this is so far, well, it's not too tricky. It's a symmetrical triangle is what it is. Let me just see if, no, I'm not going to do that. I was going to get a drawing tool back in, but I need a line that's not a big fan of this drawing tool at all. Well, anyway, if you draw a line from here, 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 and here, you'd be getting a downtrend. You can be drawing an uptrend as well. There's a pattern of distinct lower highs and lower lows. Oh, excuse me, lower highs and higher lows. With this high, this high, this high, and it's now just grinding within the 18 average. And there's a lot of charts that are really grinding within it right now. This is going up and down at least well enough. So what I need this thing to do first is stay and hold above this key resistance level in the low 300s, 310, 315. If I see something like that, that means this is a daily chart. I need to really stay and hold 5, 6, 7 days. That will be telling you. The statement would be made that it's ready to at least test this previous resistance area of around 400. Because it's really got a couple levels to go. What you're probably going to get, what I would like to see happen is a breakout close to about 350 or the 340s. 340 to 350. Then you'd want it to come back here. But the whole point is seeing it hold and stay above, and it's just more likely to actually make a move up here and come back lower. But the real thing in which I'm looking for is for it to hold and stay above 400. Because when you can get a clear break above this thing, then it's ready to go. Now the big thing is though, if you just see it happen to be at 425, 430, oh, let's just see if I can buy back at 4. And maybe you can, but oftentimes when you see a market break a level of resistance like this, don't be surprised if it flies like no other. Let's just take a look back at the history. Here's this level of resistance in here. I don't know if, what's the big number? Yeah, $15 here. Yeah, $15 was the big level. So after this thing took out 15, look at how big this, look at how it's held and stayed above 15 in here. It didn't even go back to 15. So that's what I'd be, and a thing just flew higher. So what I've written with many different codes is if it can hold and stay above a certain particular area in US dollars, expect it to fly, and a breakout point being wherever. I'm on page about, well, let's see. I'm on page 10, and here we have EXP. So I'm finishing up the E's. I'm going to be working all day on this. I've been working a little bit this morning. I worked decently last night, and a little bit in the afternoon yesterday, and a little bit on Friday as well. So I'm hoping to get this done by tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. And yeah, a lot of it is talking about different buy and sell areas, but I see a lot of correlations within the US dollar as well. Let's just take a look at, say, Dash. I've already looked at that. I think this one had an interesting chart against the dollar. See, in a situation like this, what I'll be talking about is, you see how this is resisting this 18 average, which is in the ballpark area of like 300 to 320. So 300 is a big number. So if this thing can hold and stay above 300, it's the same thing like the Ethereum. You'll be like, oh, making a statement that you're ready to be done this correctionary move. And when you see that, that's when you really want to start to consider getting in long positions. And in a spot here, if this breaks above this key 400 after it's had this long of a correction, I mean, you could have big moves, 600-700 to up to even over 1,000. Okay, so be it. 1,200 wouldn't surprise me either. That's only 3x on 4. So that's why when I talk about the big moves, and when you see these, that's probably where Bitcoin is going to have big price moves as well. Because if Bitcoin goes up, it's probably not going to go up as much as these alternate coins will against the dollar. So it would be a good position to still be going long on these funds against Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin's going down, well, it's just going to go up even more, like big time. So then, that will be this video. Thank you for tuning in, and let me just even see, just for fun, if this is even working now. This is where I push it. It usually should be done now when I push the copy button. I would paste this into another browser where I can then use this on my Paint browser, which I like so much better, but it just stopped working the second it started downpouring. Now it's not raining much, it's just drizzle, it's just regular rain. Alright, it's not working. Thank you for tuning in and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.